Good morning students. In this video we are going to discuss about NEET and K-CET level coaching part from the chapter Cell the Unit of Life. Subtopics: Eukaryotic cells, cell membrane and cell wall. Right, now let's enter into today's session. First question: choose the relevant characteristics of eukaryotic cells from the below. Option A: variety of complex locomotor organs. Option B: cytoskeletal structure and membrane-bound organelles. Option C: genetic material is organized into chromosomes. Option D: all the above. So, according to the given question, the characteristics A, B, C can be seen in eukaryotic cells. So, the correct option for this question is option D. Right? So, now let's learn in detail about this question. Variety of complex locomotor organs and cytoskeleton and membrane-bound cell organelles like nucleus, mitochondria, chloroplasts in plant cells, and genetic material is organized into chromosomes. Those chromosomes consisting DNA. These characteristics can be seen in detail in eukaryotic cells. Okay, which ones comes under eukaryotic cells? Let's see some examples. Prokaryotes, plants, animals and fungi, all these comes under eukaryotes. All these possesses the above mentioned ABC characteristics. So the correct option for this question is option D. Right? Now let's see second question. Plant cells are not having one of these following organelle exclusively in them. So now let's see options. A. Cell wall. B. Plastid. C. Vacuole. D. Centriole. So the correct option for this question is option D. Centriole. Students, do you know all the plant cells majorly consisting a tough, rigid, non-living cell wall? Plastids like chloroplast, chromoplasts, etc., vacuoles, and all these are present in plant cells. But centriole is not present in plant cells. It is present exclusively in animal cells and helps in cell division process during animal cell division. Understand? So the correct answer for this question is option D, centriole. Understood? Now coming to third question. Compartmentalization cytoplasm is not present in these given cells. Option A, human sperm cell. B, egg cell. C, bacterial cell. D, nervous cell. So the correct answer for this question is option C, bacterial cell. Compartmentalization cytoplasm can be seen exclusively in eukaryotic cells. What are those eukaryotic cells in the given four options? Human sperm cell, human egg cell and human nerve cell. All these comes under eukaryotic cells. They shows compartmentalization cytoplasm since they are high level cells and eukaryotic cells. But bacterial cell comes under prokaryotic cell. It do not possesses compartmentalization cytoplasm. Understood? So the correct answer for this question is option C. Now coming to fourth question. Cell membrane in human RBC is made up of. This is very important question for competitive examinations. They ask this question, concept is same. On the same concept they asked in previous NEET examination. Let's see the options. Option A, lipid single layer. Option B, lipid bilayer. Option C, lipid triple layer. Option D, lipid polylayer. Generally, human RBC consisting one specific nature. It is nothing but lipids, proteins, sugars composition can be seen. But lipids generally shows one variation. Those are present in two layers wise, top and bottom, nothing but called as bilayer. So lipids ratio in RBC plasma membrane or cell membrane is 40%. Understand? So this was known into light in the 1950s only with the help of electron microscope, right? So this is very important concept. The correct answer for this question is option B, lipid bilayer. Why the name itself known as lipid bilayer? Because lipids are presented as a two rows wise, top and bottom. Two rows are present in the plasma membrane. Understood? Now, fifth question. In human beings, the membrane of the erythrocyte has approximately. In human beings, membrane of erythrocyte. Another name for erythrocyte is RBC, red blood cell or red blood corpuscle. The thin outer membrane is called a cell membrane or plasma membrane. Has specific composition in it. Understand? So now let's see options for this. Option A, 50% proteins and 40% lipids. Option B, 52% proteins and 40% lipids. Option C, 40% proteins and 50% lipids. And option D, 60% proteins and 40% lipids. So the correct answer for this question is option B, 52% proteins and 40% lipids. 52, 40, 92 and rest of the 8% sugars are present. So this is the composition of plasma membrane or cell membrane of human erythrocyte or RBC. As I told you just now, this total description have come into light in the decade of 1950s with the help of electron microscope adventure. So now coming to sixth question. An improved fluid mosaic model structure of cell membrane was proposed by. This concept is also very important for PU board examinations also. So remember it and note down please. Option A, Singer and Nicholson. Option B, Robert Brown and Robert Hooke. Option C, Sheridan and Schwann. Option D, Leeuwenhoek and Nicholson. So the correct option for this question is option A, Singer and Nicholson. Here students, I would like to give you brief explanation for this question. Singer and Nicholson, these are the two great scientists, and they proposed a improved model of structure of the plasma membrane in human RBC in the year of 1972, which is widely accepted as fluid mosaic model. Understood? So the correct answer for this question is option A, Singer and Nicholson. Next, seventh question. Pick out one of the most important function of the plasma membrane from the given list. Students, this is one of the important point and new way of asking, right? So now let's see characteristics, I mean functions of plasma membrane. A, cell growth. B, formation of intercellular junctions. C, secretion. D, endocytosis. E, cell division. F, transport. These are the functions. Now let us see which are belongs to or which are performing by the plasma membrane or cell membrane. Here there are some options. Four options are there. In the options, we need to pick out the correct option of the functions of plasma membrane. Here are the options. Option A, B, C and D only. Option B, B, C, D and E only. Option C, A, B, C and E only. And option D, all the above. Students, here the cell membrane or the plasma membrane is performing all the mentioned A to F functions. What are those functions? Cell growth, formation of intercellular junctions, secretion process, endocytosis, cell division, transportation, all are the important functions of the plasma membrane. Among all these, the most important function is transportation. This concept we will learn in this video only. Right? Now, coming to 8th question. Choose the correct statement from the given. This is statement based question, very important question. Statement 1. The lipids are arranged within the plasma membrane with the polar head towards the outer sides. Then coming to statement 2. The hydrophobic tails towards the inner part of the plasma membrane. So in the given two statements, which statement is correct? We need to identify the correct statement. Right? Now let's see options. A. Only statement 1 is correct. B. Only statement 2 is correct. C. Both the statements are correct. D. Both the statements are incorrect. Students, in the given two statements, we had a discussion about this concept in regular theory video. In another video, lipids are arranged within the plasma membrane with the polar head towards the outer side. I have showed you the structure even. Lipids ratio in the plasma membrane of human RBC is 40%. Right? Each lipid molecule has two parts, head and tail. The heads are present towards the outside, called as polar, towards outside. Those are called as polar heads. Then another part is nothing but tails. All the tails are hydrophobic in nature. Between the two heads rows or lines from the both sides, tails are present or emerging towards inside portion of the plasma membrane or inner part of the plasma membrane. So those are hydrophobic tails. Understand? So both the statements are correct. So the correct option is nothing but option C. Now coming to 9th question. Name the method where many molecules can move briefly across the membrane without any requirement of energy. Now let us see options. Option A, passive transport. B, active transport. C, neutral transport. D, all the above. So the correct option for this question is passive transport. Many molecules and minerals are moving very freely across the plasma membrane without any requirement of energy from high concentration level to low concentration level by a method of transportation is called as passive transport. Understand? So here energy is not required to flow the molecules from one concentration gradient to another concentration gradient where the molecules are freely flowing. Understand? That is called as passive transport. So here I would like to give you one example. Doop sticks, when we are lighting and keeping in a room, then from that place the total fumes are spreading into the house. So from high concentration to low concentration, they are freely moving without any energy requirement. So this is very important. The movement is called as diffusion. As we learn, the type of transport is called as passive transportation. Understand? Now moving to another important question, 10th question. Choose the correct meaning for osmosis. This is very important concept for theory exams and as well as for competitive examinations also. Now let's see options. A, movement of water by simple diffusion. B, movement of water by critical diffusion. C, movement of all liquids by simple diffusion. D, movement of gases by simple diffusion. So here the students, I would like to give you one information about osmosis. Osmosis is an important process and water may move also across the membrane from higher to lower concentration. Understood? Movement of water by simple diffusion is called as osmosis. This is very important. So the correct option is nothing but option A, movement of water by simple diffusion. Understand? Next, coming to 11th question. This is also statement question. This is also very important concept. Statement 1. Neutral solutes may move across plasma membrane by the process of simple diffusion along the concentration gradient. It is lower concentration to higher concentration. This is statement 1. Next, statement 2. Water may also move across the plasma membrane from higher to lower concentration. So students, in the question they asked, we need to pick out the correct statement from the given two statements. Understand? Now let us see options. Option A, only statement 1 is correct. B, only statement 2 is correct. C, both the statements are incorrect. D, both the statements are correct. Now let's see once again statements. Neutral solutes may move across plasma membrane by the process of simple diffusion. Just now we had a discussion along the concentration gradient, right? That is lower concentration to higher concentration. This is absolutely wrong. So they are moving from higher concentration to lower concentration, not from lower concentration to higher concentration. When they're freely moving from higher concentration to lower concentration, that is passive transport and diffusion process, also known as simple diffusion process. So this is completely wrong. That is not from lower concentration to higher concentration. If it is from lower concentration to higher concentration, that must be active transport, energy dependent process, energy requirement process. Understand? So the statement 1 is incorrect. Right? Now let us see statement 2. Water may also move across the plasma membrane from higher to lower concentration. Just now we had a discussion in above question in the case of osmosis, right? So second statement is absolutely right. So the correct option for this question is, it is nothing but option B. Only statement 2 is correct and statement 1 is incorrect. Understood? Now coming to 12th question, matching based question. We need to match the column 1 with column 2. Now let's see which are there in column 1 and column 2 respectively. In column 1, A, B, C, D, E as follows. A, peripheral proteins membrane. Next, B, integral proteins. C, phosphoglycerides. D, primary wall. E, active transport. Now in the column 2, partially buried in the cell membrane. Next, in column 2, second one, Roman number 2-1, lie on the surface of the cell membrane. Next, Roman number 3, Na plus and K plus ions pump. Roman number 4, lipid component. Roman number 5, growth. Now let us match. A, peripheral proteins. Generally, peripheral proteins shows one important characteristic. They are usually having a specific characteristic that they are present on the surface of the plasma membrane or cell membrane. That's why those proteins are called as peripheral proteins. Peripheral sites means border sites or margin side or near to the end side. So that's why those proteins are called as peripheral proteins. They lie on the surface of the cell membrane. So A is matching with Roman number 2. Understand? Next, integral proteins. Integral proteins generally present buried in the cell membrane. They are present inside the cell membrane or the plasma membrane. That's why they are called as integral proteins. Understand? So B is matching with Roman number 1. Next, phosphoglycerides. Phosphoglycerides is one of the important component of the lipid. Since the cell membrane is exhibiting lipid bilayer, in those lipids phosphoglycerides one of the important component. This is very important for competitive examinations. Next, primary wall. So the primary wall in the plants, in the especially young plants, it is meant for growth, capable for growth, overall growth of the plant. Understand? Next, active transport. Active transport is energy dependent process or energy requirement process. So energy required in the form of Na plus and K plus ions pump. potassium and sodium ions pump. In that those ions are required for the movement of molecules across the membrane from lower concentration to higher concentration gradient. Since energy is required, this process is called as active transport, and the method is energy dependent process. Understand? So now the correct option for this question is option D. It is nothing but A is matching with Roman number 2, B is matching with Roman number 1, C is matching with Roman number 4, D is matching with Roman number 5, E is matching with the Roman number 3. Understand? Now 13th question. Choose the energy dependent process where a few ions or molecules are transported across the membrane against their concentration gradient. Just now we had a discussion about the same concept. So the correct answer for this question is option B. So the concept is very important to ask the questions in multiple ways, right? So need to point must be remembered. Please make a note. So generally molecules or ions can freely move from one place to another place without energy requirement. That kind of movement is called as passive transport, as we learned already in above concept. But here in this case of active transport, energy is required to move the molecules from lower concentration to higher concentration gradient. So that energy could be in the form of ATP, or even that energy must be in the form of Na plus and K plus ions pump. The type of transportation is called as active transport. Understand? So the correct answer for this question is option B. Now 14th question. Middle layer of cell wall is made up of. This concept is also very important for competitive questions, for competitive examinations. Please watch the options. Option A, calcium carbonate, B, calcium pectate, C, calcium chloride, D, calcium bicarbonate. So the correct option for this question is option B, calcium pectate. So generally the middle lamella is a layer mainly made up of with calcium pectate. So what is the role of this calcium pectate and middle lamella? This middle lamella generally helps to hold the or glues the different neighboring cells together. Understand? So the cell wall and middle lamella may be transversed by plasmodesmata which connect the cytoplasm of neighboring cells. So that is the main role of middle lamella, which is made up of with calcium pectate. So the correct option for this question is option B, right? So 15th question. Find out the irrelevant to the cell wall from the given options. We need to find out irrelevant option regarding cell wall from the ABCD. Now let's see options. A, cell to cell interaction. B, barrier to undesirable molecules. C, protects from mechanical damage and infection. D, selectively permeable in nature. Students, in the question they mention very clearly irrelevant characteristic to the cell wall. Now first of all, let us see characteristics of cell wall. Generally, cell wall exhibits some important functions. What are those functions? Cell wall not only gives shape to the cell and also protects the cell from mechanical damage and infection, right? It also helps in cell to cell interaction and provides barrier to undesirable molecules. Understand? So with the concept explanation, A, B, C options are related to cell wall functions, and option D, selectively permeable in nature. So the cell wall is not selectively permeable in nature or semi-permeable in nature. It is completely permeable in nature. Understand? So the irrelevant option is nothing but option D for given question. Right? Now coming to 16th question. Cellulose, galactose, mannose and minerals like calcium carbonate are the components in the following organism. Now let's see options. Option A, fungi, B, algae, C, bacteria, D, viruses. So the correct option for this given question is option B. How come it is? Let's see explanation. Algae have cell wall, right? Like green algae, brown algae, red algae, as we learn in lower chapters. But the cell wall is made up of with different components like cellulose, galactons, mannans, and minerals like calcium carbonate. Understand? So this is absolutely important concept. The correct option is nothing but option B, algae. Next, 17th question. Identify the components in the plant's cell wall. So generally, plant cells are having one specific nature. The cell wall may be a non-living rigid structure. Cell wall forms an outer covering of the plasma membrane in many of the fungi and plants. But here in the given questions they asked one important characteristic. Components of the cell wall. Option A, cellulose. Option B, hemicellulose. Option C, pectins and proteins. Option D, all of the above. So now let us see the correct option for this question is nothing but option D, all the above. Let's see explanation for this question. Here, plant cells consists of cellulose, hemicellulose, pectins and proteins in their cell wall. So cell wall, this is because having specific characteristic such as cell to cell interaction and providing barrier to undesirable molecules and even giving perfect shape to the cell and perfect structure to the cell and protecting the cell from mechanical damage and infection. All these functions can be carried out by the components which are present in the cell wall. So what are the components? Those components are nothing but cellulose, hemicellulose, pectins and proteins. Understand? So the correct option for this question is option D. Next, 18th question. Pick out the parts which connects to cytoplasm of neighboring cells transversely. Now let's see options. Middle lamella only, B, cell wall only, and C, plasma membrane only. Option D, both A and B. So the correct option for this question is option D, both A and B. Students, generally one important point have to be noticed here. Cell wall and middle lamella may be transversed by the plasmodesmata, which connect the cytoplasm of neighboring cells in plants. Understand, this is most important point for asking competitive questions in NEET examinations. Please make a note. So the correct option for this question is option D with both A and B. What are those? Middle lamella and as well as cell wall. These two helps to joining or attaching or glues the neighboring cells through plasmodesmata. Understand? Next, 19th question, matching type. Match the column 1 with column 2. Let's see which are present in column 1 and in column 2 respectively. In column 1, let's see first. Option, A, ATP utilization. B, electron microscope. C, quasi-fluid nature. D, young plant cell. E, cell wall. In column 2, Roman number 1, non-living rigid structure. Roman number 2, lipid bilayer. Roman number 3, primary wall. Roman number 4, 1950s. Roman number 5, active transport. Now after this, now it's time to match column 1 and column 2. Now let's match. ATP utilization. As we just discussed now, ATP can be utilized in the form of Na plus ions and K plus ions pump for the transportation in the plasma membrane. It is called as active transport. So active transport is energy dependent process and it is energy required process for the movement of molecules or minerals or any substances from lower concentration to higher concentration against to concentration gradient in a one word. So A is matching with the Roman number 5. Next, electron microscope. You know, students, electron microscope generally having one specific characteristic. The detailed structure of the plasma membrane was studied only after the advent of the electron microscope in the year of or in the decade of 1950s only. So electron microscope means immediately you should come to know, one point should come into your brain, it is nothing but in the decade of 1950s. Next, quasi-fluid nature. So which is having quasi-fluid nature from this given Roman number 1 to 5? It is nothing but lipid bilayer. So lipid bilayer shows one important characteristic. What is that? Quasi-fluid nature of lipid enables the lateral movement of proteins within the overall bilayer. This ability to move within the membrane is measured as its fluidity. So that nature is seen in the fluid mosaic model proposed by Singer and Nicholson in the year of 1972. Understand? So quasi-fluid nature is exhibiting by lipid bilayer. So next, it means C is matching with Roman number 2. Next, young plant cell. Young plant cell generally helps in primary growth of the plants. So primary wall formation can be done by the young plant cell. This is very important point noticed. Next, E, cell wall. Cell wall is important structure in the plant cells, the outermost layer, and it could be a non-living rigid structure. Understand? So this is very important. So E is matching with the Roman 1. So according to given A, B, C, D, E in column 1 and column 2, 1 to 5. So the correct matching for this question is option D. It means A is matching with 5, B is matching with 4, and C is matching with 2, and D is matching with 3, and E is matching with 1. Right? Now let's discuss about last question in this session. Find out the irrelevant to eukaryotic cells from the given options. A. Protists. B. Plants and animals. C. Fungi. D. Archaebacteria. Irrelevant to eukaryotic. Do you know which organisms comes under eukaryotic cells category? Protists, plants and animals, fungi, all these are having cell wall, and are also they are having membrane bound nucleus and membrane bound other cell organelles in the cytoplasm. Cytoplasm is the site for cellular activities, but archaebacteria, it is not related to eukaryotic cells, it is exclusively belongs to prokaryotic cells. Understand? In archaebacteria, as we learn, different categories are there: thermoacidophiles, mesophiles and halophiles. All these are comes under prokaryotic cells category. So the irrelevant for the given eukaryotic cells category is nothing but option D, archaebacteria. So the correct option is option D. So with this I conclude this session. Thank you one and all.